The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Welcome in, everyone, to a Friday edition of Running Point. We got to switch things around. Anthony Hartwig coming in at the buzzer, but it was
That's the buzzer. No, I was here. I just one thing I had to take care of. I forgot. We have interviews to share with you today from John Bayek and Alec Grissom that Ian O'Brien was able to get earlier this week that we're going to share when we preview the Struthers Struthers playoff game. But I had to get those into the broadcast. I was like, oh crap, I gotta go. So at the buzzer, and the game, boom.
I know we're still in football season, but you're scratching that basketball itch that's around the corner. I can't wait for that.
Just for you, because I know how much you're looking forward to basketball season.
But talking about football, though, and I mean it's as plain as day. It's week 11, and if you're here, teams that are here, I mean, you work the previous 10 weeks to get to this point right now, and the teams that are still alive and still fighting tonight, I mean, they have a chance at the ultimate goal, and that's getting themselves down to Canton to play in Tom Benson.
We have 21 playoff games on the network tonight. And a quick reminder that these playoff games will be pay-per-view like last year. Same deal, $9.99, one payment of $9.99 gets you every game on the network. So it'll get you access to the playlist. So it's not like you have to pay for every game, $9.99. Just pay one installment of that $9.99 game, and you'll get every game that's on the network tonight, which is 21 playoff games. So that's
rounded up. That's about 48 cents a playoff game that you're paying for.
Good mental math.
So, I mean, that's a great price too. Nowhere else you're going to get that. And I mean, if you're going to a game, like DJ always says, get yourself to a game. So be there, be present, but then also get yourself on your phone or the device.
An iPad in this kind of,
and then you can be quite literally in 20 other football stadiums.
You have like one ear with an AirPod, one ear with the atmosphere that you're in. So you can
you can really drown yourself in some football Friday.
Some people like to watch the game that they're at so they can hear the commentator what they're saying about the game they're watching.
There's definitely people that
too. You can purchase your virtual ticket now. They go live a day before kickoff, so they've been up since yesterday. So you can go on there. I would advise purchasing it well before kickoff, because if you run into any issues or get any confusion on following the instructions, you can definitely have time to either reach out to us or reach out to somebody else that has done it before and get that squared away before kickoff. You don't want to start that at 6:45, realize there's an issue or realize you don't know how to do something, and then you miss kickoff by 10 or 15 minutes while you're trying to fix it. So always good to just get that ticket taken care of and buy it before kickoff. That way all you have to do at 7 o'clock is go on and hit play.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at this, we have it up a whole day before for the convenience of everyone. So if you get it, your internet can handle it. But you could also set it up on the TV, which is also really nice. So if you want to set it up on like an external or a different device other than the one you initially bought it on, you can definitely take the time to set that up too and figure out how all that needs to be situated before the kickoff.
Here's another thing we have to point out, and we have to say, if it is just $9.99, if you see anything that is not $9.99 or a subscription or anything like that, it is not us. Don't fall for it.
Listen, There's some phonies that are
Some
afoot. Some
phonies.
big fat phonies that are out there too. That are dropping in on our pages too, dropping in our comment section saying you can find the game live.
Oh, yeah, don't follow any of
Don't
those
wanna-
links either.
On
No.
any of our social medias, it's best just not to follow any of our comments. Like, just don't follow any of the comments that are sending you links elsewhere.
We
Like,
try to delete them as much as we can, but sometimes they just slip through the cracks.
yeah, I mean, they're
They seem like
constantly
real. They seem like legit, but they're not. So don't.
Yeah, there is bots everywhere too. I mean, it's getting kind of crazy. So you want to definitely protect yourself in the cyber world and make sure you're getting it from the right source so you know where your money's going.
Where do you find the time to make dummy links and create
It's
robots?
insane, man. It's insane to make quick
Like-
bucks, man.
And then like it's not even like they're trying to trick you to pay. Like those links are just trying to hack your computer, trying to install a virus. So like, come on, man. Like, just go get a job. Well, make money like the rest of us do. That irritates me when you people trying to scam people out of money. It's like, come on, the effort that you put into making all those robot links probably could have been spent actually doing a job.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's our 5-minute PSA on just warning you about the fake links out
Welcome to our TED Talk. Let's get back to
we do have the link up. Make sure you get it. Make sure you are all taken care of before 7 o'clock and when all the action starts.
So before we get to our playoff previews, I'm going to just go over the scores from last night. Recaps and all that can be found on the website. But the scores from last night, we had volleyball district championship action. Western Reserve fell to Canton Central Catholic 3-0, and Wellsville won the district for the second year in a row over McDonald 3-0 sweep. The Tigers are back in regionals. In girls soccer action, these were district championships as well. Poland beat Cardinal Mooney 1-0. Lakeview went to penalty kicks with Waterloo and won the penalty kick round 6-4 to advance to the regional semifinals. West Branch beats West Geauga 2-0, and Canfield beats Kinston 2-1. So in the soccer field, it was a YSN sweep. We will have an all YSN regional semifinal in both Divisions 2 and Division 3, as it'll be Canfield versus West Branch in Division 2 and Poland versus Lakeview in the regional semifinals in Division 3.
How about that? An all Bulldog, all blue Bulldog final. That's going to be quite a scene, both inside the same conference. What a matchup.
Round 3.
I could be one of those asses that are just like, I think a Bulldog's gonna win that game.
I think the team in blue called the Bulldogs.
I think that team's winning for sure. No, it should be fun. We love all YSN matchups, and that
You
just
can even take it a step further and say the Bulldog that's blue in the inning 8. It's still true. But those are going to be fun. We'll preview those regional semifinal matchups next week, and we'll definitely talk a lot about girls soccer and our teams that will advance tomorrow, and boys soccer later in the week as well. But Friday is about football. Friday is football owned, and that's where we want to get to. It's our Friday football preview. Like I said, 21 games will be on the network tonight. A couple of them will not be on the network that we'll still talk about, but most of the games that feature YSN family schools will be broadcasted. We start at the top of the list. This is in no particular order, as always. It's just in alphabetical order based on the away team. Oh, excuse me. And it is Alliance at Cheney rounding us off for our first playoff preview. And Cheney, they've had a really, really good season. We've seen them. They're a strong physical team. They pound people up. Not the highest scoring offense. They play a little bit of low scoring games, but they know how to win football games. They're not that undisciplined team that we saw them as last year. And they look to carry that discipline and that drive and athleticism and physicality into the playoffs against this Alliance team, who we've seen a couple of times this year look really good. They're on the opposite side. They like to run you ragged. They like to spread the ball around. They're a high-octane offense that score a lot of points. And they're coming out of that EBC, which is no joke, with Carrollton and West Branch and Salem also in there, who are all playoff teams.
We give a lot of respect to Alliance, and justifiably so. You look at what they've done this year. I mean, beating Salem the way they did, they beat Carrollton too, which was rolling at the time, and only lost by a touchdown to West Branch. This is a very good Alliance team that Cheney's going to have to battle with. I think this is one of the premier matchups, and it's always dangerous. 5-12, an 8-2 Alliance team at 12. but Cheney's athleticism is what really sets them apart from other teams and has really been a difference maker in a lot of games. I'm looking for those big breakaway plays and for those big scores too, those timely scores that the Cowboys have been so good at capitalizing on this season. You always got to watch out for them special teams unit too. They got a three-headed dragon. Right now, the winner of this team the winner of this game plays the winner of University School and Chagrin Falls Kenston.
Yeah, and you look at this game too. Cheney has always they've played a number of really good offenses this year and shut them down. So Alliance is probably looking at this tape, trying to figure out what kind of pieces, what can they expose in this defense, and there aren't too many things that you can do. If they're just bigger than you and they beat you off the ball, which Cheney does most of the time, there's not much you can do about that with your scheme to help. Yeah, I might see a lot of screens from Alliance to kind of battle the aggressiveness of Cheney's line and probably the dominance of Cheney's line. But that's the only thing, like schematically, I could think that you could do to really try to counterbalance the dominance that you're going to get on the offensive defensive line. I think Cheney's going to control the line of scrimmage in this game, and if they do that, they'll come away with the victory.
Cheney is a team that allowed more than 20 points once as a defense, and it was to the Ursuline Irish when they allowed 30. 9 other games, they held their opponents to under 20 points, and including 2 shutouts towards the end of the season as well. So Cheney, definitely a defense that can make you scratch your head sometimes on offense, trying to figure out what you need to do to get some points.
And remember, their defense showed up really big in that Canfield win, which is arguably the biggest win for them on the season.
Mike Swinehart saying something to watch in this game. Alliance running back Hayden Davis is a YSU commit. Definitely a great back, too. We've gotten to call his name. Mikey G's been calling his name a lot, too, in that conference.
We'll go right into that screen game, right? They're going to use him. I imagine he's very good catching the ball out of the backfield. They're probably going to try to use Cheney's aggressiveness on the line of scrimmage against him. And I would be shocked if you didn't see a lot of screen plays from Alliance, either to the running backs or even the bubble screens to the wide receivers. They have so much speed on the team. Why not try to utilize the speed and get those guys in open space?
Absolutely. And I mean, that's what you might see Alliance do. This is speed going against speed.
Right. So that means like you can't do traditional speed plays, right? You're not going to beat Cheney on a post route or take a go route down the sidelines and say we're just going to outrun Cheney. So you got to make creative ways to get your speed guys in open space. And screen passes are a good way to do that.
I mean, this is going to be it's going to be an exciting battle, too. It's going to be an exciting battle for sure.
Remember, we saw Ursuline when we were talking about this game. Ursuline, even though they had a lot of success in the drives that they didn't in that game, they kept trying to run outside on Cheney, like outside perimeter game. And it's like Cheney you're just not going to do that with traditional sweep plays or your traditional toss plays to the outside. They're too fast, too physical. You got to get creative if you want to get your speed guys in open space.
Absolutely. And honestly, for this game, because both teams have such a plethora of speed in their respective teams, they can really rip off scores in fast manners and in quick fashion. That's why I said even in the special teams unit, you could see very well a 14-21 point swing in the matter of like 6 minutes in this game because of how fast these two teams can score. And I'm talking 2-3 play drives that can result in scores because just how fast these two teams are and how much big yardage plays they could capitalize on.
We will see how this game goes. It'll be one of the fun ones on the network. 7:00 is your start time, and Alec Hancox will have the call from Rain Stadium in Cheney for this one. Next, we go into Coventry traveling to Beaver Local. And if Beaver Local has been playing like they have all year, oh, man, this should be a fun one as Beaver Local has been dominating, especially in their home stadiums.
Yeah, they absolutely have. And Beaver Local, really, I mean, you're taking on 15 Coventry, 5-5 on the year. And really, Beaver Local gets like superpowers when they've been playing at home as of late, it seems like. And with the way it shakes out, they're going to play the winner of Salem and Canton South, which will be an interesting one. So we have potential to see an all YSN matchup here, but Beaver Local needs to take care of business.
Salem wants a rematch, right? Because, I mean, not a rematch because they won the first one, but Beaver Local would like that rematch too. But Salem would feel, I think, kind of good about that matchup if they got into a second round matchup with Beaver Local, because they know Beaver Local. They play them for the last 2 years. They beat them earlier in the season. I think they would feel kind of comfortable about that matchup. Now, this is a different Beaver Local team. They have found some kind of formula after week 2 when they lost to Salem, because since that point, it has been nothing but high octane scoring. They were down 35-21 in that game last week against Wheeling Central with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. 7 minutes. They still won 49-35.
The best win, too, on the season for Coventry, the opponent of Beaver Local, just looking at this, the best one I'm looking at, Berkshire's probably their best. Berkshire, 7-3 team on the season. They beat them back in week 2, 31-16. But as of the last 3 weeks, a 3-game losing streak, and actually losing 4 of their last 5, talking about Coventry. I mean, they lost to Norton, which was an 8-2 opponent, but they've lost to 4-6 Field, 8-2 Cloverleaf, and 6-4 Streetsboro in the last 3 weeks. And Streetsboro wasn't even close, 63-35.
Not how you want to go into the playoffs. This could be a falling star for the Comets.
It definitely could be. Good analogy. Beaver Local looking to definitely fortify the dam, I think.
Make your wish, because the Flying Comet's coming through and it's not lasting long. So make your wish while you can, because here they come. Beaver Local, once again, that'll be a 7 o'clock start time. For the first time this year, Mike McKenzie and Chris Sigler are going to be sharing a booth. That'll be a fun broadcast.
There's a lot of great pairings. I was looking at this list, too. I mean, there's already the normal pairings that we've seen, too, that are always great. But there's some first-time pairings, or not too often pairings that I've seen. And there's another one coming up here with a certain West Branch team, I believe, that I'm excited.
That's going to be a pretty good pairing for that one. Before we get to that, Coventry Beaver Local, once again, 7 o'clock. Mike McKenzie and Chris Sigler will have the call. Next on the list is Edgewood at Struthers. And before we talk about this game, we're going to let you hear from 2 Struthers guys. Ian O'Brien had the chance this week to talk to Coach John Bayek and Alec Grissom. We're going to play those 2 back-to-back. They're about 15 minutes combined, and then we'll come back and talk about the Struthers-Edgewood game from our point of view. So here's John Bayek and Alec Grissom back-to-back from Struthers football.
Welcome, Struthers Cats, Nate, Struthers Wildcat Nation. Ian O'Brien, Ysn Live here with another Coach's Corner. In fact, it's the 3rd episode actually here with my man, Coach Big, over here. Once again, I want to thank our good old sponsors from Ysn Live, and you can catch Coach Big in the game over here against Edgewood, 7 p.m. at Struthers Wildcat Stadium, and you can also stream it over here on Ysn Live under the NE8 section of Struthers. Coach, first of all, thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you having me.
So we got to talk real quick about this. Last week, it was a big game for you guys. 16th seed over here against the Poland Bulldogs. Poland, of course, a team that started out kind of like you guys, a little shaky over here, but they were already in a spot to lock in. You guys, meanwhile, were the 16th seed, needing to somehow get into this game. What was it like to finally win that game, especially by a big margin, and move up to the 8th seed?
We've been talking for a while actually about week 11, and once we found out that we had an opportunity to get a home game, it kind of upped the ante a little bit, and our motivation got a little stronger. We not only wanted week 11, we wanted a home game in week 11, and our kids practiced all week like they wanted it, and then Friday night they came out like they wanted it and took care of business. I'm really proud of the way we played and how well our coaching staff prepared for that game.
Beginning the season, it looked like it was going to be a struggling Wildcat season. 1-4 start off. A couple close games, though. I mean, South Range, really good team, had 5 turnovers. I mean, they turned over the ball 5 times. You guys got those turnovers. Still lost by 10. 2 overtime losses against Streetsboro that ended with that missed 2-point conversion, and then you, in fact, had that double overtime loss against Hubbard. And then all of a sudden, you guys went out 5 games. What was, after that 1-4 season, that 1-4 record happened, what was the call to try and say, hey, we got to turn the season around?
In our coach's office, it was definitely frustrating because we knew we were getting better. It just wasn't showing on the scoreboard at the end of every Friday night. And like you mentioned before, a lot of them were close. So, it was tough because we're trying to convince kids who right now were 1-4 that we're getting better. And we were trying to be positive, which is difficult to do when you're 1-4. But our kids never complained. They never quit. there really wasn't a turning point. It was just everything was finally clicking. The kids bought in to what our coaching staff was preaching to them, and they never gave up. And that's the reason we were able to win 5 in a row and get a home playoff game. Our kids just never gave up. Our coaching staff never gave up. And we all committed to getting better. And even though we lost those tight games, we continued to get better every week. And I think that's starting to show. And like I said, I'm really proud of the way we have progressed this season.
You guys progressed the season really well. Let me just say that for standpoint right there. You guys have really done good. But you got to give a lot of credit not only to your guys' coaching, because your guys' coaching has really been a big impact. The players too. Howard, for example, Sanchez and Carter as running back. Those two have been really talented running back this season. You've seen them. Your defensive side's been really good. It's definitely really improved, especially we saw a lot against Niles, the game I broadcasted. You guys stepped up really well in the second half. And also, of course, Alec Grissib, who we just had the player profile on. Talk about just a lot of these players over here and what they bring to the table and just the experience that they've had and that leadership to put them in a position where it might have not started out well, but now they're over here with a chance to go far into the playoffs.
Oh, man, it's so tough to talk about. When you say talk about these kids, I want to talk about every single one of them, but we'd be here all night. But, yeah, you mentioned a few of them. We definitely have some senior leaders that have been through some tough situations, and this has prepared them for adversity. And people like Alec and Sanchez and Chaz and Brady and all those, that whole senior group, I can rattle off all the seniors' names. They've all been through this situation before the past 2 years, and they got that Friday night experience, how to fight through tough times. And they've definitely shown it this year. They never gave up, even with our start that we had, and they're continuing to want to get better. A couple underclassmen that have really taken a leadership role, definitely Anthony Carter. He totes the rock and also plays strong safety for us on defense. Devin Bram and Robert Carcelli have taken a huge role in our defense as well. They both play linebacker. And then we have Nico Farina and Tyler Sanchez, also senior leaders in our secondary. So we have guys in every spot. We're very fortunate that we have some older guys in each position group. We have a very young line, and I know you talked about our running backs and how well they've been doing, and they have. But I really want to attribute a lot of their success to how much our offensive line has progressed. We're real young up front. Our only senior is Brady Clyde, and our coach, our O-line coach, has done an unbelievable job preparing these young guys every week. And we have great running backs, but I definitely believe that a lot of our success is because of how well our offensive line has been playing the last few weeks.
You look at that offensive line too, as you just talked about. How do you think they progressed in a way? Was it because, again, younger last season, younger this season? Do you think it was the weight room experience? You guys changed up a little bit, maybe the weight program. Do you think it maybe was nutrition? Do you think it was, hey, we're going to just mix up some of this. We're going to do a lot more run plays, and you're going to have to maybe block to the left or the right? What do you think was the biggest change in that offensive line?
I definitely don't think this. I know the reason they've progressed is their commitment to football. They were in the offseason. They were the first ones in the weight room, the last ones to leave. And every week, even though our slow start, they wanted to get better. They took coaching. They didn't complain. They didn't quit. They wanted to get coached. And that's something nowadays a lot of kids think when you're hard on them that you're criticizing, you're making fun of them, or you're putting them down. Our kids did not take coaching that way. And we coached them harder. We told them, we believe we're a playoff team. We're going to coach you like it. And they took the coaching. And I know that's why they're getting better, and they're just going to continue to get better. They're a special group of young men, and I'm very excited to see them not just finish out this year, but to watch them grow as young men the next few years.
Now, for you also as your coaching standpoint and coaching experience with all your coaches that have been around Struthers for a while, how do you think you guys have improved since you've taken over the job compared to maybe the last couple of years and bringing Struthers back up to where they belong?
My first year was definitely different. It was the first year that, the whole COVID stuff happened. And it's kind of hard to start your program when you can't even see your kids. we couldn't run the weight room we wanted to run it. We couldn't put in our offense or defensive playbook the way we wanted. It just really threw a wrench in the game, and I feel bad for not just our coaching staff, but the kids that were thrown into that situation. But it takes a few years to develop your culture and develop what you want to see in your program. And we've progressed throughout the years. We've won more games throughout the years I've been here. And this year, I think it's finally starting to click and our kids are buying in. It's definitely a special group of young men that we wouldn't be able to turn the corner that I wanted to turn as a football program if we didn't have this group of kids. Like I told you, they've bought into what our coaching staff has been trying to preach to them. And they are committed and they're dedicated. And this turnaround, whether it's this season or after the last 3 years, probably wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the group of kids that are committed the way they are. So, I think it's part coaching staff, part kids that we've been able to turn the corner this year.
Now, big game Friday night, as we said, against Ashtabula Edgewood, the 9th seed. You guys moved up, so you guys are definitely going to be, of course, playing them, as we know. Big move up from you guys here beforehand. What's it like over here now, just playing them? And what have you seen from this team? Same record as you guys, maybe same, I want to say, schedule kind of playing-wise, record-wise. What have you seen from them, and what's it going to take to get them on Friday?
They have pretty good skill. I think that they match up well with us in the skill position, and they do a really good job of getting the football to their best players. They don't try and be cute with anything. They know what their strengths are, and they capitalize on them. So our defense really has to come out and make sure that we can slow their offense down. I think they have a quarterback that can get their playmakers the ball, and they're very sound. So we have to play a disciplined game with no penalties and no turnovers in order to come out victorious Friday. But again, we just got to keep doing what we're doing. If we get better every week, our goal is 1-0 every week. If we can do that, hopefully we're playing in week 12.
All right, well, Coach, first of all, I want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you for us setting this up too right there. I know we couldn't do it yesterday, but we were able to get it over here today. I really do appreciate for coming on. Once again, I'll be having the call. In fact, 7 p.m. You can watch Coach Bayuk, Alec Rasib, and the whole Struthers Wildcats football team play against Ashtabula Edgewood at Struthers, Ohio, where he calls the stream it once again on Ysn Live under the Northeastern 8 banner, and just press on Struthers and then press the play button. Might have an ad here and there. Just skip it, and you'll be watching us live. So, Coach, once again, I want to thank you for coming on, and good luck this Friday.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Welcome, everyone, here. Brian, Coach's Corner, player profile, Coach's Corner will be, in fact, coming up after this, though. Player profile, Struthers Wildcat Edition with Alec Rasib. Alec, first of all, I want to thank you for coming on, my man.
Yep, thank you for having me.
Well, it's good to have you on. First of all, I've been trying to get you on over here for a while. I wanted to do this last night. I had to be pushed back a little bit, but a little about you real quick. It seems like you've been playing every position this year, dude. I mean, from quarterback, running back, and then a wide receiver, and even a returner at times too. What's it been like this year, just playing all those positions?
It just feels great to be able to help out my team, do anything I can to help us, put us in the position to win. Just go out there and do whatever I can.
Do whatever you can, indeed. It's been really good so far for this Struthers Wildcat team. And your second part here too, you're a student athlete. Of course, they always say academics come first. You need to be eligible when you start out playing sports over here. But what's it been like, real quick, just balancing out your school life throughout your career with just all the sports you've been into, especially your two biggest ones, football and baseball?
Yeah, it can be tough at times, but my parents pushed me onto it, pushed me on to getting good grades, and Coach Bake's always on us. All the coaches, even my baseball coaches, Coach Otto, pushes us to get good grades, make sure we're eligible to play sports. Just always got to have the good grades.
And you bring up a real important one right there, family. Talk about your family real quick. They've definitely become a big influence for you, especially in your playing career and your just livelihood altogether. Talk about how important they are to just getting you into Struthers and just watching you play every Friday night.
I mean, I'm just very grateful for them. They're very supportive for me during everything, through the ins and outs. They just push me to be my best, and they're with me through all.
Real quick, going over here real quick, you've closed out nearly 1,000 rushing yards on the season. I think around 899 or something like that. Passing touchdown, 5 receiving touchdowns on your side. How much would you say the improvement from the offseason paid off compared to what you were last season here at Struthers?
Definitely paid off a lot. I mean, our whole senior class, we really pushed everyone to be great this year. We really wanted to look for a good season. The whole season doing really good during the offseason.
Sorry about that, actually.
You're good.
Sorry about that right there. Something just happened over my laptop. But real quick, following up on your season over here, it didn't look pretty at first. You were 1-4 to start the season, and usually teams give up a lot by being 1-4 on the season. There's a bunch of stuff that you have to kind of overturn. Some teams just decide to kind of give up in that way. But you've had 2 overtime losses, 2 tough ones there against Hubbard and Streetsboro. But after those 4 losses, and of course you guys began to get some really good Northeast 8 teams. I mean, you had a South Range there, Hubbard in that double overtime win, and then you sweep the rest of the teams basically in your conference, and the rest of the teams are in like that your whole region, your whole division. Talk about what was that talk like in the players' locker room, because everyone always says players' locker room talks big. That's what really puts the team up, hypes the team up. Talk about how it was big and how you guys were able to win out for the season.
Yeah, so we went in there. We knew we were struggling. You could tell by the vibe throughout the locker room, but we just preached that we can go out and win it out and make the playoffs. I'm sure you've heard of it, trust the climb. Coaches really preached that upon us, and we really pushed to that.
How big, though, because it's already another year, all right, and you guys have definitely had one of the best seasons over in Struthers in a couple seasons. How big has Coach Bake been, real quick, just to this whole Wildcat team and getting that Wildcat grit, as they say, the Wildcat splashback?
Yeah, he's a big inspiration on us. Really pushes everyone to be their best. You can tell he calls it business. I mean, and we're all business when we come and play for him. So we really appreciate him.
A big win also against Poland, 35-7 last week. It was important because you guys were the 16th seed, basically fighting for that big playoff bracket position too. And not only that, with that big win, 35-7, you guys move up to the 8th seed in Region 13, Division 4. Real quick, talk about that win. I don't think you guys even knew you guys would beat Poland by that much, but what was it like after that game was done? Just the emotion and all that.
Yeah, it just felt great. Knowing you can go out and beat your rival by that much just feels even great. And then knowing you're playing for a home playoff game, it's just even better. So going out to beat your rival like that, especially your senior year, it's just a great feeling.
It's definitely a great feeling for you guys. You guys have done a really good job. Now looking at this week, Edgewood, a really good team also, the 9th seed in Region 13, Division 4. It's basically survival time now. Records are off the table over here, Alec. It's playoff time over here. Once again, what's it going to take? What have you seen on them real quick on the film side? And what's it going to take for you guys to look at the biggest part of the game to beat them?
Yeah, they got a really good skill side. We just got to play our game, do what we do best, and just show out on Friday night.
And real quick, end it off on this one, Alec, because you've been here for a while. When you graduate at Struthers High School over here, what do you want to be remembered as? Not only as a student athlete, but just as one of the best over here coming out of Struthers, but also being a great student and just being a great friend to everyone. What do you want to be remembered as?
I just want everyone to remember me as how impact I show on the young cats, and then just how much they look up to me. It feels pretty good about that, and I just hope that they continue on the leadership that I give them. I just feel like they can bring that up.
All right, well, Alec Rasib, thank you real quick for coming on, my man. I really do appreciate it. Over your player profile edition, Alec Rasib. You could catch him on Friday night this week as the Struthers Wildcats' first home playoff game. They will be hosting Ashbula Edgewood. Kickoff will, in fact, be 7 p.m. That'll be, in fact, on Ysn Live, and you can find it under Struthers Wildcat on the Northeastern 8 Conference. Alec, once again, thank you for coming on, my man, and good luck this Friday.
Thank you.
You're muted.
That's you. Oh man, we're a lively team, aren't we, Ty?
We're doing
That was Alec Grissom and John Bayek, Coach's Corner and Player Profile from Struthers Football, who we're going to talk about now as they gear up for this matchup with Edgewood. And this is a really good 9-8 matchup. I mean, both teams coming off of big wins against their rival. Of course, Struthers beating Poland up 35-7, like Ian said. And then Edgewood getting the win over Lakeside in the battle for the bridge. 30 I think it was 32-28, if I'm not mistaken, was the final score of that one.
Edgewood has some experience in winning close ball games this season, and they've come out on the right end of them a couple of times this year, and that might fare well for them going into this matchup. But for the Struthers Wildcats, they've been one of the hottest teams, I think, in the area in the last 5 weeks. And how can you not say they haven't been? I mean, you look at Struthers' season right now. There's definitely cases where they're about 2-3 plays away from having 8 wins in the season.
Right.
And they're probably about 6 or 7 away from potentially having 9 if they executed right against South Range. Like,
that was probably the game that probably hurt the most for Struthers, because you have a team like that on the ropes and you can't finish the job. I mean, you force 5 turnovers out of a South Range team. That's just something that you have to, that's like when you have the best team in the area, best team in your conference, you have them on by the throat almost, and then you can't squeeze it and let it go.
It will be exciting going forward, because as Coach Bayek has hinted, not only in Ian's interview, but in just conversations that I've had with him, when DJ and I had a conversation with him, there's a lot of youth on this Struthers team and a lot of returners. So this could be another battle. I'm excited to see South Range Struthers round 2 with a little more experience and seasoning on both teams, but that's for a later date. Talking about this game, though, Edgewood coming off of a big win, Struthers coming off of a big win. Both these teams have a lot of momentum, but really, I feel like Struthers right now, being the home playoff team, I mean, obviously that's already a hard thing to go against for Edgewood. But it's just one thing Edgewood's going to have to be careful of going into this one is just how quickly the Wildcats have been able to flip that switch and just start piling on scores and having those big 20-plus point quarters. Like, that's one thing. Like, the Warriors play a very methodical, slow-paced game of football. They're going to have to keep time of possession in their favor, I think, especially in that first half. You don't want Wildcats coming out pouncing on you quickly, quick scores.
I don't worry about Edgewood being on the road, because I think last week was pretty much a road playoff game for them anyway. They were fighting for a home playoff game. It didn't work. They got all the way to 9, but they still needed that win. If they didn't win Lakeside, they'd have no chance. They had to go to Lakeside in the Dragon's Den to do it, and Edgewood came out of there with the 32-28 win. So that should make them used to going on the road for a big time game where they need a win. So I'm not too worried about road rust for Edgewood. What we're like, oh man, like Edgewood has won the close games and Struthers hasn't, right?
Here's 2 similar opponents though for them, because Edgewood has played Jefferson and has played Geneva. Edgewood lost to Jefferson week 3, 56-14. They lost they lost to Geneva in week 7, week 7, 41-8. Struthers obviously beating Jefferson area 42-14. That was back in week 6. And then they lost to Geneva back in week 2, 42-20. So
they both lost to Geneva by a sizable margin. Those 2 Jefferson scores are
drastically
now,
different.
You wonder, like, not every matchup is the same. What Jefferson looked like? What was their mentality? Maybe Jefferson has had a bad game against Struthers because most of their other games were pretty competitive. You never know. But those 2 scores make you look at that and go, whoa, advantage Wildcats on this one. But I think it's going to be a really good game, as all 9-8 matchups should be. This is the benefactor of this new playoff system with 16 teams. You get a really good 9-8 matchup in round 1.
Well, that's why Edgewood is going to be a great test for Struthers, and Struthers a great test for Edgewood because of the contrasting styles. You're going to see, because of the Wildcats, they've been so it's been so crucial to their victories in recent weeks and how quickly they've been able to score and how quickly they've been able to add additional scores on. Well, the way you kind of curb that is exactly Edgewood's game style is you just limit how many times they get to touch the ball. They're not going to be able to score quickly on you if they're not holding the ball that much.
We talk about it all the time, though. Ball control is a double-edged sword because if you don't finish those long drives with the score, all you've done is eaten up all the time on the clock, and then you don't have time to come back after they're scored. So you got to be able to finish those long drives that Edgewood puts together with a touchdown, or else you just kind of bit yourself when you were trying to eat the clock. So that's a big key in those kind of games. Let's move on to the next one that we'll be covering, which is Fairport Harding. We'll be going to Warren JFK. This will be a home game for JFK, but it will be played at Liberty. Dom O'Brien will have the call at 7:00. Warren JFK, 1 seed. This is one of those games where unless something like unexpected, miraculous happened, which happened once in the state of Ohio last season, Warren JFK trying to just get off to the playoffs with a good start and execute all their game plans perfectly.
This is no disrespect to any of our other number 1 seeds and all the respect to JFK, but if there is a number 1 seed that's going to fall to a 16-1, I don't think it's going to be JFK. It's not going to be JFK that's falling at that
they
number.
Might fall to a 16 seed like that is in Division 3 if they came down to play.
Now, say the next round in a 1-8 matchup, if that were to happen, if the chips fall as they may, maybe 1 versus 8. JFK if it's the team we're thinking it is, but JFK should take care of business. Fairport Harbor, great season for them to end the year to get themselves into a playoff position. You always, respect out to those programs that are able to get themselves into the playoffs, get themselves a seat at the table. And, as I always say, when you have a chance, you got a chance, right? You just need a seat at the table to make something happen. So anything could happen. And honestly, the one thing interesting, I think we talked about it, or at least I talked about it. I don't know if I talked with you about this. This was Fairport won 2 consecutive games against Ashtabula St. John's School Fighting Heralds, back-to-back weeks. They had to play a home and away matchup, or an away a home matchup,
which is something you never see. Like, we played this team twice.
So Fairport Harbor got 2 consecutive wins against Ashtabula St. John's to get themselves into playoffs.
If it was a game that got canceled, they went up to Ashtabula St. John's like, "Hey, you guys want to have fun again? Want to play again?" Well, sure.
The thing is, too, the last game JFK we seen them was last week against Southeast, and if that's any indication,
I couldn't even make that joke. It was like 50-0. It wasn't even like.
And JFK definitely got themselves tuned up. They're prepared for the playoffs. They look like they're a well-oiled machine.
Nothing in sports is 100% lock. This one is as close to it as you can get to it.
It's pretty damn close, man.
You can Sharpie it in, and then all you have to do if something miraculous happens is just etch that Sharpie off. But this is as close as it gets. But strange things happen in sports. That's why we play the game, right? That's why they play the game.
We love it.
So JFK's got to be buckled up, ready to go for playoff time, which I think they will be in Liberty. 7:00 is your kickoff time for that one. Dom O'Brien will have the call. Another 16 versus 1 matchup in West Branch as Field comes to town.
This is going to be really fun, too, because this is also, coincidentally enough, going to be the team that's going to be playing the winner of that Struthers Edgewood game. So we're going to see the winner of this game go and play the winner of Struthers and Edgewood. And for West Branch, they've been, ever since that loss to Canfield week 1, like again, they're like Brookfield too, similar, where it's like that after that first week, just forget about it. They've been taking off since. They've been fine. They kind of needed it to get themselves in check, it feels like. And ever since the Warriors dropped that first one, close game too to Canfield, like Drew DeShields still put on a show. They still put on a show, still looked great. They've been really firing on all cylinders, and it's been the offense. You look at this straight down the line, there's exactly 8 games where they scored 40 or more points, 1 game where they tipped over 50, again, 2 games where they tipped over 50, against both Minerva and Marlington. But this is an offense that scores right in the neighborhood of 40 points per game, and that's the bread and butter. That's what makes them go, and that's what's going to give them the advantage in this matchup as well.
They escaped the thriller against Salem last week in that rivalry game where it was back and forth, and even Salem had a chance to come up and make the game-winning score, but they threw an interception late. So West Branch went for the thrilling victory over Salem. I don't know how much of that tape Field can watch, because I don't know if they have like I said, you got the blueprints, but do you have the tools to execute the blueprint? I don't know if they have enough to score like that against West Branch's defense. I don't think they have that. I don't think they have the tools that Salem offense did.
The thing that's struggling right now for Field too is you're going to need to be able to score to keep up with West Branch unless you have a lot of faith in your defense. And the problem with Field right now, struggling on offense, only a touchdown, one score, 7 points in the last 2 weeks of the regular season. They were shut out in week 10, and held to 7 points in week 9. So just not a good trend for the Field Falcons going into this.
Does not bode well. That is that's not a good sign, Field. Not a good sign.
Yeah, but West Branch, I mean, favorites, they're number 1 seed for a reason, too. They're looking to get themselves to a regional final.
All right, we'll move on to the next one. Hawken, not the Stranger Things town as we gear up for Halloween, but they will travel to Ursuline for this one. 7 o'clock is your kickoff time, and it'll be Anthony Romo and Steve Leslie on the call here. By the way, Michael Janaki will have the call at Field at West Branch.
The legend. I mean, the legend. The voice.
He had such a great call in that Salem game. He was killing it. He was the only show in town, too. It was a great time to go watch West Branch Salem.
He does a phenomenal job over there, and he's had quite a few great calls over there, and great season for the Warriors, no doubt. But for this one, yeah, Ursuline, 3 seed, 14, but this is a pretty good Gates Mills Hawken team, though.
When you get in these higher divisions, like sometimes those 7 to 13 seeds can really just be a parity. We saw that in Division 1 for all the other sports now. I'd say divisions 2 through 4 have sneaky teams like 7 to 13 that can just be sprinkled in there that are quality teams.
Hawken is a great opponent too. I mean, 8-2 also on the season, similar record. Their losses to Gilmore Academy, 41-34 back in week 3. Gilmore Academy, 9-1 opponent, and they slipped up against Painesville Harvey, 50-44 in week 9. And
both those games, one possession, by the way.
Yeah, and that was a game too where Harvey definitely, I think, caught him on a night too where maybe they were getting overlooked, but the Hawks are definitely a solid football team. A lot of good wins on the season. Their best against Berkshire, again 7-3 opponent, 35-27 in that one. But a lot of their opponents that they've beaten to, Cardinal, a 5-5 opponent. Trinity was 4-6. Another 4-6 opponent in Crestwood in week 10. So a lot of teams that are hanging around the middle of the bunch. We know Ursuline and the type of schedule they play. It's a gauntlet. They play a lot of tough teams as well. But I suspect this to be a pretty good matchup, despite it being 3-14. I think Hawken will be able to definitely.
They can score, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think they could potentially contend with Ursuline for a half at the very least. I think Ursuline, though, has a lot of weapons in this one, but we'll see. Because Hawken, I think, viable opponent.
Ursuline's defense has been prone to giving up points this year.
That's the one thing, and I mean it's been in the secondary where a lot of teams have been able to attack too. It's been that secondary and breaking that second line of defense too after the initial first line blocking wise for the run game.
Like last year, Ty. The Ursuline defense gives up their stuff, but when they have to make plays, they make plays.
Bear down when you need to, right? It got them to the state championship game a year ago. So hey. Whatever works. Coach Reardon's been doing this for a while. He's a genius at what he does. He's the perfect guy to lead the Irish to another great run.
All right, real quick note about this West Branch game. Excuse me. West Branch beat Woodridge 43-13 this season. Woodridge is the team that beat Field in week 10 33-0. So, like we said, no matchups are equal, but if that tells you anything about this 1-16 matchup, it's heavily favored West Branch.
That's what you risk sometimes, but sometimes you get good matchups like Hawken and Ursuline too, where it could.
And hey, like I said, it happened once last year, so you can't sleep on 16 seeds because all it took was one, right? Like Dr. Strange says.
Any given Friday, man. Any given Friday.
Hubbard at Girard will be the last one we'll talk about before our first break. because this is an NE8 rematch. Matt Mayer and Jordan will be on the call for this one. 7 o'clock kickoff. Rematch of a game that Hubbard feels like they should have been a lot more competitive in the first time around.
Yeah, and Girard's in a situation too where, they're dealing with their injuries, but they've been able to adjust and they've been able to adapt and survive and still get themselves a 3 seed in the playoffs, capitalizing on some big wins. And that big win came against the Hubbard Eagles after the Nick Bengala injury, where there was kind of questions being raised, and Girard needed a victory, losing 2 in a row to South Range and Poland. Girard was in that situation where they can drop, and they can drop big time, and they laid it on the Eagles. And maybe a game too, like we say, all high school athletes, maybe it was one the Eagles were overlooking and saying, "Oh, we got them now." I mean, they're not at full strength, but Girard came at full strength. But now, perfect thing about sports and why you love sports, they offer opportunities for redemption sometimes, and this is
a very sneaky 3 versus 14 game.
Because it's also same conference too, and that's why you can't ever take it for granted.
That, and I'm not taking anything away from Girard, but we know even during they held on to the one spot with that 2-game losing streak, because that win against Ellett in the regular season in the non-conference schedule gave them so many points above everybody else that they were able to hold on to the 1 seed despite that 2-game losing streak against South Range and Poland. So that win against Ellen definitely gave them a lot of points. I'm not saying that they didn't earn the 3 seed, but they're definitely not the same team they were that beat Ellen back in the non-conference.
They were 5-0 in their first half of the season. They're 2-3 in the second half of the season, and that win against Niles was a close one. Niles gave them everything they had in week 10. They almost tripped up in that one. So this win against Hubbard really stands out amongst the 3 losses in the very close game against Niles. It's an opportunity for Hubbard, like I said, redemption-wise. Whether you win or lose this game, Hubbard definitely just wants the score to be a lot closer and reflect a lot better what their program offers.
Their defense can't afford to give up as many points as they did because their offense just can't score like that.
No, and I mean, that's Hubbard is defensive-minded. They're definitely, we're going to just shut you out. You can't win the football game if you can't score points.
They got to – I think Hubbard's got to score 20 points to win this game, at least 20 points. I don't think they're going to hold Girard down under 17 per se. That would be a really good defensive effort. So I think Hubbard's got to score at least 20 to win this game, but a very sneaky 3 versus 14 matchup for all the reasons we said. 1, they're familiar opponents, they're in conference. 2, Girard is a 3 seed that's stumbling a little bit, that's getting a lot of points from that win over Ellett in the non-conference. And 3, Hubbard is a defensive team that is very, very motivated to kind of prove themselves with the last loss to Girard that they had in the regular season. So
maybe to offer some consolation to the Hubbard faithful too. Since the start of conference play in week 4, Hubbard has been on a on again, off again. They lost, they won. They lost, they won. And it's been like that from Poland losing to Poland in week 4. They won to Struthers, and on again, off again up until week 10 where they lost to South Range. So if the trend goes as it's been,
and we're gonna be on again today.
Yeah, you're gonna be on again, and it's been against conference opponents. Lines up with that. So
if you upset in round 1, you get a lower seed in round 2 than you did in the first one. So because they would play they would be playing 3 versus 6.
I believe so. Let me just double check the bracket and see where they would. Yeah, they would be playing Jefferson and Poland. The winner of Jefferson and Poland. So Hubbard can quite literally, we're going to get 2 back-to-back NE8 rematches because it's Girard, Hubbard, Jefferson, Poland in this bottom half of the bracket. So we're guaranteed a YSN team at least.
It's like a fight for second place in the NE8.
Yeah, a YSN team is at least getting past the second round.
Incredible. That's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of fun to see how those games
I'm excited. I'm excited to see how things shake out for sure.
We're excited too. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more playoff previews on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
I support police funding, securing our borders, and parental rights in education. I'm Attorney Mark Hanai, the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeal. I will always follow the law.
Paid for by the committee to elect Mark Hanai. Dave Johnson, chairman.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
I'm Mark Hanai, a conservative Republican. I believe in family values, the Second Amendment, and our Constitution. Vote for the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. Protect your rights. Vote Hanai for judge.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update. Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
From on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you, as always, by our great friends at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown, inside Athletic Studio. As you know, we are now with the corporate sponsorship Athletics. You can see the A right behind me, not the whole logo. It's right there, just out of shot. But there's the A of the Athletics right there next to me. I'm just going to say it's A for Anthony since you can't see the X.
I'm sure.
It's not A for Anthony. It's definitely A for Athletics, as we appreciate their support and their continuance into supporting not just us but local athletes. So we'll go into the more football previews. We left off with Hubbard and Girard, a rematch of an NE8 matchup in Jefferson versus Poland on the other side of that bracket. So we're going to have back-to-back weeks of NE8 matchups in Jefferson. Thought they were done with the regular season, but they still have a chance to wreak havoc in the NE8 before they say sayonara next year out of the NE8.
They definitely can. It's going to be interesting. You get a little 4-pack of the NE8.
Here's another interesting one that I think is going to be a good one for our YSN family. Jackson Milton traveling to Dalton, 7 o'clock kickoff time. It'll be on the road. Noah Ricks has been cleared to be at Dalton, so we will have this one for you on our playoff coverage.
Curious to see how Jackson Milton's going to perform. Dalton, obviously a great opponent, 8-2. Jackson Milton sneaking into the playoffs in the 14th seed as the 7-3 too, despite the 7-3 record. This should be interesting, though, because the way that Jackson Milton has been able to win ball games this year has been in a variety of ways. They've definitely been tested in a multitude of ways by a multitude of teams with multitude of schemes offensively and defensively, and they've come out on top of more than they've lost. And seeing the way that Jackson Milton's been able to play in those close defensive games like they had against Newton Falls, how they've been able to play in those games where it comes down to the wire, like against Western Reserve, that 22-21 thriller too. And then they've had plenty of blowout games too, where they've really just put it on opponents. LeBray, Latonia, and Sebring, all shutouts too, where they put up large numbers on the offensive margins to 30 or more points. So this has been an interesting game. And I think, interesting season, I should say. And I think the way they ended it, despite the record that McDonald has on the season, that was a huge bug that they've had like looming over them for the last few decades.
16 seasons it's been since Jackson Milton has beaten McDonald in football, and they finally got that Blue Devil-sized monkey off their back. And if that kind of win doesn't give you momentum into the playoffs, I really don't know what will. You beat a rival for the first time in 16 years. I mean, they celebrated on the field like they won a state championship. They were pouring water on Coach Brode. They hit him with the Gatorade bucket. They were just elated of this victory. It was like a big sigh of relief from the entire town of North Jackson when they beat McDonald. And that's got to make you feel really good. And I'm sure this week of practice has been really energized. I think Jackson Milton's a sneaky good 14 seed. And in this kind of division, Dalton, obviously known for putting together good sports programs, but their schedule isn't ridiculously better than Jackson Milton. It's not like they've played a ton of teams that are just better than the team that Jackson Milton has played. So I think this is a favorable lower seed matchup for Jackson Milton. Obviously going to be tough being the 14 versus the 3 on the road. But I think Jackson Milton with Alex Schiavi in that offense, they definitely have a chance in any game that they square up in.
No doubt. Brookfield and Andover Pie Valley wait on the other side of this bracket for the winner.
Which, that's going to be a good one because both teams are just big at the line. And we'll talk about that one a little bit later, too. Next on the slate, though, is Liberty traveling to South Range. Liberty squeaked into the playoffs. They are the 16th seed in Division 5, even though they lost to Garfield. They really got in by winning 4 of their last 5. They came into that Garfield game in Week 10 on a 4-game winning streak. And they are a different team than we saw them in the first half of the season. They're kind of like reminding me of Struthers where they were dead in the water and they flipped the switch and they started to win games. And they just they scored against Garfield. They just couldn't stop the G-Men's big rushing attack.
I think they're hoping that their defense plays similar to the Struthers Wildcats against the South Range.
You look at that tape, and Liberty's defense this year, when they've succeeded, they've relied on the turnover, right? Getting big plays on defense. Not necessarily the stopping teams, just finding ways to get the ball. They're ball hawks. They force a lot of turnovers. So they're hoping that South Range has one of those games again where they're turnover prone. Because if that doesn't happen, Liberty's in trouble. They're not built to just stop teams. They're built to turn over teams. They have a lot of athletes in the secondary. They break on routes. They're really aggressive. They've had a couple of pick sixes this year because of those aggressiveness. But, if South Range plays clean football and doesn't turn the ball over, the defense might be in trouble against the Raiders.
It's got to be exciting for you. It's like I said, it's your true love going against your sweetheart first.
You can't lose right now.
But, I mean, it's been a great season, and this is what Liberty wanted to do last year, and they just barely missed the playoffs a year ago, but they were able to sneak in. The program's back in the playoffs, and it's like, you wanted the playoffs. Here you go.
Here you go.
Answer
go
the
South Range.
Answer the bell. But the biggest thing is Liberty pulls off the upset against the Raiders. Who can take it then? It's anyone's region then. The region's pretty open then.
It'd be a win for Liberty if this is a game, right? Like if we went in there and just proved that we belonged in the playoffs and proved that we weren't the team that everyone thought that we were in the first half of the season, we're not going to just get rolled. I think that would be a big moral victory for this program moving forward, that we'll have a lot of these kids coming back next year. And obviously they came in not knowing who their quarterback was going to be. And Mr. Watson has stepped up really big in those shoes and played really well the last 5 weeks of the season. But their best player, without a doubt, Chris Cunningham. Like South Range has been probably circling Chris Cunningham like 3 times in their scouting report on defense. We got to keep this guy contained. And one of their big victories, he had almost 200 yards receiving on like 9 catches. So he's targeted a lot. They're going to try to find him in open space. I'm sure South Range's defense is going to be finding ways to bump him off his route, try to disrupt his timing, and do a good job in the secondary. But South Range's secondary this year might be, and I've seen South Range football for a long time, it might be the best secondary they've had in quite some time. I mean, they are just good at playing the ball in the air. We saw that against University. I think that was their biggest secondary moment because University got to the point where they were just trying to chuck balls deep at that point, and they had big receivers. They were trying to use their size. South Range played really smart defense. They didn't have any silly penalties against the taller receivers. And instead of trying to high point the ball, they just said, okay, when you come down with it, we're going to knock it out of your hands because you got to come down to our level eventually to get the ball down to the ground. So we're not going to waste time trying to jump and out height you. You're going to catch it up here. And if you don't keep it up here, it's kind of like when a tall girl or a tall boy boxes it out in basketball and they teach you not to bring the ball down because then it's on the other player's level. This is what happened with the receivers. The University went up to catch it. They would bring it down and then smack right out of the hands incomplete, right? It's that simple. It's that smart. It's that smart decision-making in the secondary for South Range. In years past, you saw their secondary kind of let people loose every now and then for big plays, especially in big playoff games. I don't think that happens this year, especially against this Liberty team. I think their secondary very, very good. Their defense is obviously stout. You know, you look at South Range's defensive numbers, ridiculous. Even when their offense is struggling and turning the ball over 5 times, they didn't let Struthers score on those turnovers. They still only had 13 points. It was 23-13. So this defense for South Range, it's a different level. Their offense does its job. They find ways to score for sure. But I think more so than in years past, I think the story of the South Range team is definitely their defense.
It's going to be interesting. Conneaut and Garfield await the other on the other side of this this tree.
Everyone would love to see a Garfield South Range matchup.
I think everyone's kind of been wanting that the last couple years, honestly.
Yeah, and of course it wouldn't be because everyone wanted it last year for sure with Anthony Dema, and the name is Swagonski at quarterback, Brody Swagonski, the players like that. But with Keegan Sell for Garfield as well, and then Eric Geddes, they've stepped into those 2 roles really, really well. So if that matchup happens, it'll be a fun one. But both teams have to take care of business first. Liberty travels to South Range at 7:00, and DJ Oakley, the boss man, having the call for you there from South Range. We'll go into Lisbon, who got a playoff spot with a pretty impressive season. They will travel to Norwalk, St. Paul. Rick Daly has been cleared. He will be in Norwalk for the call at 7:00.
Should be a fun one, too, as Lisbon trying to pull off the upset. It's a very good Norwalk St. Paul team. And, I mean, Lisbon's kind of battling through their injuries. Guys are stepping up, trying to pull off this big win. But the big thing, again, is if Lisbon wins, it's all gravy from here.
If they can get Trevor Sifke and Austin Daly kind of going, then they're going to be okay. But the Lisbon offense has been kind of hit and miss this year. We've seen them look really good in games, and then we've seen them kind of fall off a cliff in games. So when Lisbon team shows up, obviously it's a tough loss last week in the Week 10 to finish the season. That was probably a game that they felt like they should have won against Columbiana on paper, but they don't play the game on paper unless you're playing that Statagory game back in the 80s. But, yeah, I think Lisbon – quality season, and if the right team shows up, they have a chance.
I think so as well. And winner of this game plays the winner of Southern and Greenwich South Central.
Yeah, but this is a tough draw because Norwalk St. Paul is a very prestigious football program that makes playoff runs most every year. So it's a tough draw for Lisbon. They're going up against not just a really good, talented team, but a team that knows how to win in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you know what? It's still for right now. It's a win for Coach Altimore. He's got his team back to the playoffs, and they've taken the next step in their progression too. A lot of these players have, and anything else from this point on is gravy because you're not expected to win in a 5-12 matchup.
You've got to lose. Go out there, throw the kitchen sink, and everything else you can grab on. At Norwalk St. Paul, you got nothing to lose at this point. I think win or lose tonight, this season is a win overall for Lisbon. It's a building step. They're going to get players really invested into next year. So I think you just go out, you be as aggressive as possible, and you throw everything you got in Norwalk St. Paul and say, let's leave it all out there. Let's not, try to hide stuff for film or anything like that. No reason to do that. Like, let's just throw everything we have at St. Paul and see where we fall. The next game on the slate, Matthews travels to Springfield, and this will be a 7:00 start time. Jamie Thompson and David Williams will have the call for this one. This is one. It's a 9-8 matchup, but
I'm excited for this one.
Really a 9-8 match. This is one of the ones where I'm like, it's 9-8 on computer points. But when you this is no disrespect, but you look at Matthew's schedule and then you look at Springfield's schedule and you just go, well, they're separated by more than one seed.
I'm excited about this one too because Matthews is a solid program. We know Springfield is a fantastic program, but I'm just excited about the possibility of everything goes chalk, what we could have in the second round, and what could be the matchup of matchups in this region, and what potentially could be if JFK takes care of business.
I was looking at that crystal ball, getting excited.
I am. I mean, you know what? And I don't want to disrespect Matthews because Matthews, I think, can absolutely pull off the upset from the 9.
They need their offense is what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've in the games they lost, their offense has been non-existent.
Yeah, and
that's they win. Their offense has been stellar.
And we've seen Springfield really turn it up on defense these last 6 weeks. The defense. I mean, and when we talked with Coach Guerrero back at the MVACA meeting, he really just hinted at that a lot of the younger guys getting into those positions just got to get acclimated with the positions and get used to playing linebacker. It was really a lot in that second line of defense too. And we all know that's where a lot of your bulk of tackles are coming from. So once they got everyone on that same page too, a lot of those runs didn't get past that second line. They were holding a lot of the runs. And when you hold that run game, you could force teams to being into one-dimensional.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this last year, and we talked about it the year before. These kids were a part of a playoff run, right? They were part of it. They understand what the standard is to do that. They understand what it takes to win the playoffs, even if they weren't on the field. If there were kids that were on the bench, just watching those varsity players go to work, watching the way they practice during the playoffs, watching the way they just handle themselves, that is experience. And Springfield's going to have a lot of kids that just kind of – I don't think they're going to panic in playoff mode. I think they know what it takes to be a playoff team and win the playoffs as a program. And I think you're going to see the Springfield teams of the past are going to pay dividends for this team in this playoff run, I think.
I think it should be a fun one. And I'm like I said, I'm really excited about the prospect of JFK Springfield in round 2. Maybe if that were to happen, we could see another great announcer duo of Dom O'Brien and Jamie Thompson.
We sure hope it happens because that's a YSN team. We want our YSN teams in, so we're going to be rooting for Springfield. No,
we're definitely. I'm rooting for both teams, Springfield and JFK. I want YSN teams in, but I'm excited for the matchup just because that's a fresh matchup, and that's one we talked about right from the beginning of the season.
Not even like in the summer when Springfield moved down to Division 7. We knew that was a.
This might be a problem if you're JFK. You might have a tiger that you have to get through.
Oh man, that's gonna be fun. Ty, you're gonna have fun tonight, bud. 7:00. Mayfield comes to town against Austintown Fitch, and who's joining the booth with you, man? It's Ack Attack, man. It's Mike Ackelson coming to the booth with you at Austintown Fitch. And you were talking about before the show even went live how excited you are to be in the booth with Ack, and you get it tonight. Mayfield comes to town. This is a good Mayfield team against Fitch, and it's going to be a round 1 test for the Falcons.
It definitely is. And I mean, you look at this Mayfield team and just what they've brought back this season, a lot of experience from last year too. Even though they have a new quarterback, first-year starter, he had a great season, though, 1,400 plus passing yards, even though he missed about 2 games with an injury somewhere in the middle of the season. One of the biggest threats for them right now is going to be Nick Baega, though. And you look at what Baega does on the offense too. Speed for days. He was in the top 10 in the state in track and field, and I think the dash running, 200 and 400 meters, if I'm not mistaken. He also has he has offers right now on the table in track and field from both Iowa and Ohio State University. The kid runs a 4.4 40-yard dash. as well. That's the highest at Mayfield this year. 4.4 if you're not knowledgeable on the 40-yard dashes. I think 4.3, if I'm not mistaken, is the record in the NFL right now at 4.3 seconds for a 40-yard dash. So he's right in the neighborhood of 4.
It's elite speed.
It is elite speed. And if you want an example, a game, one of the stats lines from one of the games, he had 4 receptions, 113 yards, 3 touchdowns. So very like Randy Moss-esque and what he's able to do with his speed. That's one guy you're going to have to key in on if you are the Austintown Fitch Falcons tonight. Speed for days, and you're looking at that secondary, guys like Jay Neely, Dan Evans III that play both ways. For Fitch, though, it's Cam Smith's show, and he's been running it since Deshaun Vaughn got injured in that Boardman game. He came out, managed it to the end, and he managed a really good Warren Harding game in Week 10 to get a huge victory to get the Falcons that number 4 seed ultimately. I'm excited to see what Cam Smith is able to do, because I've said it before, and I've talked with Coach Parker about it. You know, you could debate what you want about the athleticism. You could debate about what each quarterback brings to the table between Deshaun and Cam, but one thing's for certain is that Cam brings the right level of mentality, the right level of leadership to this position, a very key position for the Falcons and a very crucial point of the season. And I think you and I have discussed it beforehand. The one benefactor that the Falcons are going to have from this is there's virtually no tape on what Cam Smith
a little bit more, because now he's done 2 games as a starter.
Yeah, there's not much tape, and they haven't really let him loose in the pass game, so teams don't really know what he's capable of, and it's something that Coach Parker very well might be keeping in his back pocket. he's a man of trick play for days, and oh man, he just comes out and just throws like 50 yards.
I want TJ Parker, if you're hearing me, take a shot first play of the game.
Just
play action shot play.
Shoot it. Just shoot it. It should be fun. This is going to be exciting. I'm so excited to have Mr. Mike Ackelson join me in the booth, legend on and off the field. This is going to be a great game, I think, with a great atmosphere. I've already seen the social media posts swirling, all these businesses too rallying behind. I could feel the energy radiating from Austintown all the way here in Portage County.
Can you just imagine if with a backup quarterback, Fitch came out first play of the game, play action, deep ball.
Not afraid of anything. Get out the
way. You think you have speed on your team? Well, check this out. Boop.
They're full of trick plays for days, and as long as you got DJ Williams and Jamel James healthy, they could definitely open up a lot in the passing game.
All joking aside, those two are going to be the ones that carry Fitch. If you don't run the ball with them, then Cam Smith is going to be put in positions where he has to kind of put the game on his shoulders, and you don't want to put a new quarterback in that position. So it's definitely going to be on DJ Williams and Jamel James's shoulders to establish the tone, establish the run game, and make life as easy as possible for Cam Smith back there as a quarterback.
But have faith, Falcon fans, that if push comes to shove and you need a big pass or you need him to come up big, Cam Smith's the guy that can definitely come up big in those situations for you.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. This one here, Middle Ridge, traveling to Canton Central Catholic. This is a tough draw for a Rams team that has put together such a good season. We know that Canton Central Catholic is good. We saw them go to beat Salem. And unfortunately, they're still I can't believe they're a Division 16, to be honest, with the schedule they play and what they bring to the table. But good news for Middle Ridge. Their defense has been locked down this year all season, and Canton Central Catholic is a team that likes to score. So if you can slow that offense down and get them into a game that they don't really feel comfortable in, Middle Ridge can have a really big advantage there, because you look at Middle Ridge's scores this year, they have not given up a lot of points, even in their losses. They lost 20-12 to Springfield, and they lost 21-7 to Lowville. So they haven't given up points almost at all this year.
This is going to be interesting. I also want to shout out to John Hay and Akron St. Vincent St. Mary. The winner of that game would play the winner of Fitch and Mayfield, too. I don't know if I shouted that out.
But John Hay look silly against Beaver Local.
John Hay looked real silly against Beaver Local. But for this matchup, Canton Central Catholic has played tough against a lot of our YSN teams, and they play tough usually every season. This is going to be a good matchup, though, for Mineral Ridge because, like you said, Ant, they haven't really been blown out of the water. They have been competitive in every football game they've played, and they've come out on a lot more than they've lost too. So for the Rams' sake tonight, it's gonna go as far as Tristan Valley goes. They got the right guy at QB, you got the right guy at running back, you got the guys. Give me Liberty, baby. This tonight is the night we shock the world. It's just a picture of Liberty High School, too. It's just
Liberty.
Liberty.
It says roll leps. I love that.
Roll leps. I love that it's Liberty High School's front. Tonight is the night where we shock the world.
Someone took the time to make a burner real quick just to make that comment, and I love it.
I love it too. And you know what? For Liberty fans too, if that happens, I want to see you hype as all hell.
A little late to the party, Liberty, because we already talked about your game. But well, welcome to the show. Back to what we were talking about, which is this Mineral Ridge defense and how they've kept them in the games. Kansas City Catholic's defense on the other hand has shown some holes this year. So, Mineral Ridge, if they can find ways to score in the games they've lost, it's been their offense that has been slowed down. So you got to be able to back up your defense and score when they're making stops.
I think this is a game where Mineral Ridge can definitely pull off the upset. I mean, I know it's favored in Canton Central Catholic's favor also because they're a home team. But I mean, honestly, if I was to give this, like, I guess a percentage rating, I wouldn't say much more than like 60-40, honestly, because I think Mineral Ridge is one of those teams that they've shocked plenty of teams this year with how they have been able to burst on the scene with their wins. And then the good programs that they've lost to are just that great programs that they played really close games against. Don't forget, like you said, that defense held a very potent Lowville team to 21 points. Lowest of the season for the Rockets. So
they held the Rockets to their season low 21. And like I said, unfortunately for them, in those games, their offense just weren't able to capitalize. 12 points against Springfield and 7 against Lowville. So if their offense can back up their defense when their defense is playing really well, then they can have a good time in Mineral Ridge.
Same case. No, maybe not the kitchen sink, but you got to figure Shaner's got some plays in his back pocket tonight to try to. If he needs to really generate some offense, he's gonna have to utilize any way possible. I think
he's ditching the kitchen sink. He's throwing the refrigerator at you.
Say it's screwed.
And that refrigerator's name is Ian Herb. Good luck stopping him.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one tonight. A lot of offensive weapons. If they can get going for the Rams, it could be a great night.
All right, New Philadelphia comes to Canfield. This matchup happened last year too, and it was 35-0 Canfield. A little bit of a different team in New Philly, but still a heavily favored Canfield team in this first round matchup.
The one similarity, though, between these two teams, if you look at it, both of them played a Dover team very close, and both of them emerged victorious in overtime. And for Canfield right now, you look at this New Philadelphia team, like you said, it's a team they played a year ago, but it's their first time meeting the Quakers this year. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, considering what New Philadelphia was able to do. Like I said, Canfield beat Dover 20-14 at Dover, and then this one was home for New Philadelphia where they beat them 21-20 also in overtime. So that's the one matchup that you have that you could kind of relate between these two teams. But Canfield, really, it's been that defense that's been really, really tough for the Cardinals this year. You look at their games the last few weeks: 16 against Cheney, which was a loss, by the way. It was just one of the offensive games where they didn't have it all offensively. 14 points against Dover. They shut out East. 7 against Howland. 6 against Boardman. Before that, they shut out that team from Ontario. 7 against Poland. 12 against Bellevue. And 31 against West Branch. So 31 against West Branch week 1, and haven't given up more than 16 points since then, talking about the Canfield Cardinals.
Yeah, the 4-4-1 goal, guys, just reiterating what you said. Dover, both teams won in overtime. So if you just take that statement and say, well, that it should be a comparable matchup. Now, of course, New Philadelphia has had games where they haven't looked as good as they did when they beat Dover in overtime. So you never know what New Philadelphia team will show up. There's a reason they're 6-4. But at the same time, you look at those two matchups against a similar opponent and you say, well, they're pretty similar in those two games.
The losses that they have were against good teams. West Holmes was 10-0, Mansfield Senior was 8-2, and Steubenville was 8-2. The one that's questionable though on the Quakers' schedule for losses is this Worcester loss back in week 3. Worcester was a 4-6 team on the year. I mean, albeit some of those losses for Worcester were against some good teams, but they lost to a 3-7 Lexington team as well, talking about Worcester. So it's like you said, Ann, you don't know what Quaker team's showing up talking about New Philly.
Right. And Canfield's been consistent all year. So that's what makes me give them a little bit of an edge this year. They've been completely consistent. Even in that loss to Cheney, they played their style of football to the team with a strong defensive performance. Like you said, I haven't given up more than 16 points all year, except for that one against West Branch where they still won the game. So you look at it, and Canfield's just been consistently doing what they do best. And I think that's why I give them a little bit of an edge in this game.
Even if they aren't as offensively stout as they were a year ago against New Philly, if they have the same result on defense, they don't got to worry about much on offense.
Right, because if they don't let New Philadelphia score, then there's not going to be a win. Because
you got to
score to win the game.
So Canfield's been relying heavily on their defense year in and year out, and they're going to be doing so once again on this playoff push.
Next on the slate, we have that second matchup of the NE8 versus NE8 that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and it is going to be Poland at Jefferson. The 4-4-0 goal guys will have that call with Pat Sartor, who I've been calling Pat Santor all season because I've been putting that R as an N. So I apologize to Pat. That is totally on me. I am ashamed, and I have sent in my my compensation for those mistakes.
This is going to be a fun matchup, though, because you look at this. I talked about the storyline with this one, and I was talking with DJ about the storyline on this one too. You look at what happened just a couple weeks ago with Poland and Jefferson. Jefferson goes into Poland for senior night and just ruins the party. They were party crashers, ruined senior night for them. And I mean, this is one of those few opportunities that don't happen too often in sports where you have a chance at redemption if you're Poland. But if you're Jefferson, you can go and not only beat the Poland Bulldogs once, but to beat them twice. Not many teams can say they do that in a season. And Jefferson has done exactly what Coach Hanna and crew has set out to do. Yeah, going undefeated is obviously the goal of everyone in the conference. You know, it's a lot easier said than done with this NE8, but to have a winning record in the conference, to go 4-3 at the end of the year, that's something to be said against NE8 play.
And they have an opportunity to knock 2 NE8 teams out of the playoffs before it's all said and done, because if they win this game, they're guaranteed to play another NE8 opponent in the next round with either Hubbard or Girard, the way the bracket is set up. So they have a chance to have a winning record in the NE8 after the regular season and then go and knock 2 of their league rivals out of the playoffs before it's all said and done.
Poland's also one of those teams now where they can get their redemption. They can go and avenge that senior night by going into Jefferson and ruining this home playoff game for the Falcons. But that's going to be the key, I think, in this one, is the team going up to Jefferson. I mean, Jefferson has been traveling, and they had to travel the last couple of years too with all these away games too. They've had a lot more away games, it seems like, than home games with the NE8. But this year was a little bit different because they get to the playoffs now, and they're going to have that crowd behind them, and having a team have to travel even that hour drive too, first round playoffs. Sometimes it could help you, sometimes it could hurt you. We'll see how the Poland Bulldogs react to that 1 hour drive tonight.
It's going to be the first ever home playoff game for Jefferson in their program's history, and the first time they've made the playoffs. Now, taking out that 1 year where everyone made it in the COVID year, taking out that year, the first time they've made the playoffs since 1999.
Incredible. And I mean, Coach Han has been a huge integral part behind that. He's a fantastic coach. I love what he's doing up there. And he has a chance to keep on proving people wrong, too, that we're doubting the Falcons in the NE8.
Yeah, and that's going to be nice for them. But Poland, on the other hand, they have some really big quality wins this year, too.
Coach Pav's a legend, too.
So Poland's not going to be a pushover going on the road to Jefferson. They definitely want revenge for the Falcons coming in and spoiling senior night. So it's going to be interesting to see what Poland brings to the party. They've had a couple of big plays, too. they get the ball out to the perimeter to their wide receivers in the screen game. They've had a couple of bubble screens that break out for 75-yard touchdowns. So they want to make sure they get the ball to their playmakers' hands in space. That's what they'll try to do. It's a Poland team that has been ravaged by injury this season, but has found a way to keep getting off the mat. And they have to get off the mat again because this is a team that already beat them. So they're kind of on the mat right now, and we'll see if Poland can get off the mat and beat this Jefferson team that has already beat them. Poland can spoil the party too. Jefferson, you spoil our senior night. Well, we'll spoil your home playoff, game too.
There's plenty of teams and plenty of players that are going to have that mindset of, hey, you can have the regular season game.
Right.
Let's see what happens in the playoffs.
This happens every year in tournaments. Like if a team wins the conference or whatever, but they match up again in tournaments or they're both in the same bracket, you'll gladly take that championship, that district championship over a title if you beat the team that did it to you. So bragging rights are really on the line tonight because, Poland, like you said, all right, Jefferson, you can have that regular season win, but we knocked you out of the playoffs. And the other end, Jefferson could come out and say, hey, we beat you once, don't make us beat you again.
We got the home crowd behind us. We were villains last time. Now we got the 12th man on the field with us at all times, and it's gonna be tough. Poland's gonna have to go up against a guaranteed raucous crowd. They already bring out a crew, squads after squads to go out to hang out at Jefferson.
You've been there, the atmosphere.
I know the atmosphere is crazy. I can't imagine if it's the first time they've been in the playoffs since the year I was born. I promise you, they're going to be out there and they're going to be loud. It's going to be a tough atmosphere for Poland to play in. Either way, good experience for a lot of these younger names on that Bulldog squad.
And it's the first time they've ever been able to host a playoff game. So those fans are going to be.
Everyone in the Jefferson area is going to be going to this game tonight. I almost guarantee it.
We have a matchup to talk about that's a little bit more one-sided than that one, and it's Pymatuning Valley traveling to Brookfield. And Brookfield has looked like a team on a mission since that first week loss to Ursuline. They just look like a super impressive football team, playing exactly like Brookfield always plays, very physical at the line, very heavy on the run. They'll beat you up, they'll bruise you, they'll put you on the ground. Very old school, nose to the grindstone football team. They haven't lost that identity one bit at all.
They're in Kirtland's top half of the bracket, and Brookfield is showing no fear about it. From Coach Clark down to the players, they say, if we get Brookfield, we get Brookfield. Or if we get Kirtland, we get Kirtland. Excuse me. Brookfield's like, if we get Kirtland, we get Kirtland. All right.
You gotta look at it, right? Because there's no way to avoid it. You're gonna have to run into them eventually.
But I mean, it's one of those mentalities too, where they're not looking at Kirtland as this, you respect them, but you're not looking at them with this almost this gaze that some teams do, because it's like if you do, you've already lost the mental game against them.
There are teams that play Kirtland that lost before they even stepped off the bus.
And for Brookfield's case right now, if they win this game, they're going to be playing that winner of Jackson Milton and Downton, and either team is going to be tough. But say things go chalk and it is Downton. It's a Downton team that we've been familiar with in these playoff runs beforehand. I mean, they're always a solid team year in and year out.
That's very true. And Downton moving up in a division this year. They were Division 7 last year, and they're up now in Division 6.
That's another interesting thing to see how Jackson Milton fares in that one.
Right, because Downton's in maybe a little bit of culture shock.
Could be
up in Division 6.
It could be. I would love Jackson Milton Brookfield round 2. That would be incredible.
This Pie Valley team, they're big. They definitely have a big line. They like to push people around. They're going to try to play Brookfield's game. The problem is I don't think they can play Brookfield's game as well as Brookfield can. So the unfortunate situation for Pymatuning Valley is their style is very similar to Brookfield, and they just don't do it as well. They don't execute it as well. So it's hard when you have to match up like the exact same and you have to do the exact same thing as the other team, and you just don't do it as good.
They're just like, oh yeah, found a Donovan Pulowski. I mean, those guys don't just come up growing out of the ground like
Brookfield.
Yeah, like you don't just get those guys.
Like, hold on a second, I got another one real quick.
Yeah, it seems like Brookfield. I don't know what Brookfield has. They definitely have something over there in the water, but that's the X factor that's missing on the side.
Quarterback carrots in the garden.
It seems like it.
They keep these little cottontails that are champion. No, get out of my cottontail. Get out of my garden, Mr. Champion Cottontail. And Champion has their own softball garden. So
this should be fun to see what Brookfield's going to be able to do. First playoff game hosting to Rockin' Brookfield crowd. They've been here before the last few years, ready to do it again.
They've had some playoff heartbreak in the last several years too. Remember that overtime loss to LeBray 2 years ago in the playoffs that went like a thriller. So they've definitely had their ups and downs in playoffs for Brookfield. So maybe some lethargic therapy for the Brookfield fans tonight against Pie Valley.
Should be fun. Should be fun as Brookfield tries to go on that run to get the Tom Benson.
We definitely hope they get there. We are rooting for all of our YSN teams, of course. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll finish our playoff preview on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
How lucky are we to have not one, but two 18-hole Donald Ross Championship golf courses right here in our backyards. Mill Creek Golf Course was selected by Golf Week as one of America's 30 best municipal courses, continuing to challenge golfers of all levels and featuring golf instruction by PGA professionals, a state-of-the-art practice range, a PGA of America recognized pro shop, kids programs, and a relaxing grill room for a memorable golf experience. For more information or to schedule a tee time, visit millcreekmetroparks.org.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Going from mindful to mindful sometimes requires a helping, healing hand. Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness offers a continuum of mental health and wellness care. At Insight, we're changing the way you receive counseling and wellness services with experienced licensed clinicians and expertly trained wellness staff. With 4 locations in Mahoning and Columbiana County, along with telehealth services, Insight offers clients quick access to care when they need it. Transform your mental health and wellness at Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness.
I support police funding, securing our borders, and parental rights in education. I'm attorney Mark Hanai, the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. I will always follow the law.
Paid for by the committee to elect Mark Hanai judge, Dave Johnson, chairman.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
I'm Mark Hanai, a conservative Republican. I believe in family values, the Second Amendment, and our Constitution. Vote for the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. Protect your rights. Vote Hanai for judge.
Welcome back to Running Point on YSNLive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell as we continue our Friday playoff preview. And we ended with Pine Valley at Brookfield before that commercial break. So we'll move on to Salem, traveling to an old familiar friend in Canton South. Wasn't in the EBC this year, but they've been in the EBC before. And Salem knows that trip and that team all too well in Canton South.
So you thought you could get rid of me.
Like a cockroach, man. They'll survive the apocalypse. They survive the playoffs in Canton South. I believe this is a 7-10 matchup, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you are right as well, Ann. And looking at this is a case where the Cats are trying to clap back after a year of getting punished by these teams in the EBC. Both Salem and West Branch last year too tried to get away. They're coming back with a vengeance, and they're going to be trying to dethrone Salem from that top perch too. Even though they're not in the EBC, they want to try to take down one of those top EBC teams.
It feels so good just to be like, okay, you thought you were rid of us, and here you go.
The fact that they're the 7th seed and Salem's going into town is going to be interesting because the atmosphere is going to be brutal. Yeah, this is a team you're familiar with, so the student section, the fans are going to be familiar, so they're going to be giving them chance too. They know who Jackson Johnson is.
Yeah, they know him.
It's a case where you just don't match up with them for the first time until week 11. But I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this matchup, considering that both Salem and Canton South are such quick scoring offenses too, where they can rattle off quick scores. I think this is going to be fun, and Jackson Johnson and company have something to prove over there in Quaker country.
They do, because they've had kind of an up and down season, but that can all be washed away with a deep playoff run, and they have the offensive weapons to make a deep playoff run. They proved that when they went toe-to-toe with West Branch, who's the number 1 seed in the region right now. So Salem definitely has what it takes to win these kind of games, win these caliber games, go on the road and win the playoffs. I think, their offense is not going to be an issue for the Quakers. Can their defense make enough stops? It really, with this offense, Salem, you only have to make 1 or 2, right? Give them a chance to go take a lead, because other teams just haven't been able to stop the Quakers' offense at all, other than Crestview really in the first week slowed them down a little bit. But you look at after that, like this Salem offense has been almost consistently boom, 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 boom. Even in their losses, their offense has not been slowed down that much. Can their defense make key stops and make sure to give their offense a chance to go out there and take a lead instead of constantly playing from behind.
It's similar to what I said about what was that, Hubbard, where Salem after week 4 they've had the loss, the win, the loss, the win, the loss, the win. Well, week 10 they dropped on the West Branch. So if everything falls chalk and it goes the way it's supposed to, they should win this week if the trend continues. But like you said, yeah, offensively they've been there in all their games too. The lowest scoring game they've had of the season, Crestview week 1 was 17 points, and then Padua Franciscan they only scored 23 against. But other than that, it's been an offense that's been consistently scoring over 30 each and every week for the other remaining 8 weeks. And that's going to be huge for the Quakers too, if they can keep that offensive number. And then it just becomes pretty much a bar saying, all right, if we can give you this number on offense, can you hold them under that number defensively?
And really, hey, we're going to score at least 30 points probably. So all you have to do is, like I said, make a couple of stops, make a couple of key stops in key situations. Give us the ball maybe with a 1 short field. We can go there and steal a possession. If they get the coin toss, they're probably going to defer so they can try to steal a possession at halftime and get a lead that way. Go score before half and then get the ball right back out of the second half and steal a possession that way. So Salem's just going to have to make some defensive stops, and then their offense is going to be smooth sailing. I have no doubt about that. Muted.
Beaver Local and Akron Coventry, like we said earlier in the show, awaits on the other side of this part of the bracket.
And if both our YSN teams win, that'd be a rematch of week 2 where the Quakers went to Beaver Local and won that game.
Should be fun. I'm sure the Beaver Local has a lot to say about
if that game happened. They'd be chirping all week. They'd be like, okay, that was week 2. We're different. And we'd really, I think that'd be a really good measuring stick on just how much better Beaver Local is than they were in week 2.
Yeah, it should be exciting too. Hopefully our YSN teams pull through tonight.
Next on the slate, we have, well, a bunch of Souths. Turn south to your compass and you'll find this game. Southern against South Central.
Yeah, we're going south for this football game, but
the football is not going south, it's going up.
Yeah. It's being down in the Wigwam too. It's going to be hosted as Southern, the 4 seed. And they've really just been doing it defense wise. We talked about
they did the United last week.
We talk about teams and how they win football games. Like, I don't think there's a truer statement than Southern wins football games because of their defense. And you look at the scores that have been against them: 7-7, 6, 22, 14, 6, 6, 15, 0, 0. 22 points was to Lisbon, by the way.
And you look at it, and you'll that 15-6 loss to Valley, only one of those touchdowns was really a drive, like a substantial drive that they gave up, because the other one was a short field after a turnover. So even in that game against Valley Christian, who has been kind of lighting up the world, lighting up the scoreboard, they only gave up one significant, actual move the ball down the field type drive to Valley Christian for a touchdown.
That's exactly what they're going to do. Southern hasn't been the most potent offense at times. They had a stretch in the middle of the season, though. Last couple of weeks, too, with a 6-point performance against Valley and the 14 against United. Those are the top teams in the conference, so tougher games. But they had that 3-week stretch where they scored 51 against Lisbon, 51 against Columbiana, and 64 against Wellsville before going 48 against Latonia. So they had a stretch where they were scoring a lot of points. But first and foremost, this is going to be a great defensive team, and they're going to win games by simply not allowing opponents to score. And when they have long fields to work with, Southern is very, very difficult to get points on. When you have a full field to try to get down, it's hard. You got to try to get short fields against the Indians.
We talked about this with a couple of other teams. Middle Ridge is the main one that I think is in the same boat. Their defense is going to keep them in every game they play in the playoffs, no matter how far they go. Their defense will keep them in the game. It's going to come down to, can their offense kind of back up that defensive effort and score? Southern is in the same boat as Middle Ridge in that conversation of their defense has been consistently good all year. Can they go out and just back up that defensive effort and score just enough? You don't have to score a ton. You don't have to be an amazing offense. You don't have to score 38, 44. You just have to score maybe 20, 21, and that could give you a comfortable win. Last week, they only had to score 14. 14 was all they needed to beat United, which is incredible to think. If we went into that game, and I told you Southern was going to score 14 points and be like, they might be in a little bit of trouble. United's hard to stop, but they shut down the United offense for a goose egg. So that defense is going to keep them in every game they play.
Norwalk, St. Paul, and Lisbon await the winner of this one.
Lisbon actually stayed competitive against Southern. I mean, it was back and forth for a while, and then Southern's offense just hit a gas pedal. But Lisbon probably wants that rematch, and if Norwalk St. Paul wins that game, then Southern will look to really prove themselves against a opponent that has pedigree in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Should be fun.
Next on, by the way, Larry Scragg will have that call for you at 7 o'clock. I didn't give a shout out to the Salem announcers too. It'll be your normal guys for Salem making the trip with the Quakers. Matt Morey and Jared Niederheiser will have the call. Excuse me. Have the call in Canton for you there. Next on the list, Steubenville Central Catholic goes to Lowville at 7 o'clock.
I'm excited to see what Lowville's going to be able to do starting their playoff run. This is a very, I think, one-sided matchup. I think Lowville going to be heavily favored in this one.
Yes.
Seeing what their offense has been able to do, but also seeing what their defense has done, too. Haven't allowed over 30 points this season defensively. The highest total was 26 allowed to Waterloo. They allowed 24 to Springfield, 20 to Jackson Milton, and did not allow more than 20 points the rest of the season in the remaining 7 weeks. So Lowville has been a very good defensive team that's been kind of overshadowed by their offensive prowess.
They've been overshadowed by Vinny Pallone.
Yeah, I mean, honestly.
I mean, my word, is this kid. I mean, I'm just excited to see what kind of show he puts on in the playoffs. Like, what's playoff Vinny Pallone going to look like? Because they're not going to take him out of these games. It's like, it's your show. Score as much as you want. It's playoff time. Go shine bright, kid, and be our rocket booster. So it's going to be fun to watch him put on a show, especially against this team that is just coming in outmatched against the Rockets. I think Vinny Pallone's going to put on a fireworks display like we've never seen.
Oh, Anthony, looking for some big wins tonight. The winner of this game will play the winner of 7-10 Toronto and Lucas.
Toronto, Toronto was a good team. I know they got hit with a couple of really bad injuries that sidelined their season for a while. But in that game, Edison doesn't get a lot of credit for this win, and we're going to talk about Edison a little bit later because their record of all their opponents isn't great. But that Toronto game came when Toronto was undefeated. Now they can't afford. I mean, they can't help that Toronto after that game had a lot of injuries and just didn't look good, right? But at the same time, you come into that game, you're playing an undefeated Toronto team. It's a big win for Edison, and Toronto is going to be a good team if they get healthy. I don't know how healthy they've gotten. I don't know if they were season-ending injuries. I just know when they went on that little losing streak, we did some research because we're like, wow, this Toronto team's undefeated. What's happening? We learned that they were missing several key players in those games that they lost.
Yeah, so if they get healthy, this could be a very fun matchup in round 2 if things go chalk.
And Lucas is one of those pedigree teams we talked about, like Norwalk St. Paul. They've had a lot of deep tournament playoff runs in their football program, so they'll definitely have something to say about it, tonight.
Should be fun.
Trinity will travel to Valley Christian. This game is going to be played at Boardman. 7:00 is your start time. Alec Caberna will be on the call. Another game that we just think that is just a little bit of an overmatch for Trinity versus Valley.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty lopsided considering that Valley 9-0 on this season, Trinity 4-6, and we've seen how Valley's won a good majority of their games. It's likely going to be Eagles are heavily favored, and you likely expect that to be the outcome. Anything could happen though on Friday.
They are coming off a week where they didn't have a game. They had the week 10 game canceled on them, so there could be a little bit of rust. I don't expect there to be, but this will be a good game for Valley to say there is no rust. We're going to shake the rust off with this game that we're heavily favored in, and then go forward from there.
Winner of Cuyahoga Heights and Middlefield Cardinal await the winner of this game.
United hits the road. They have to travel to Rootstown up in your neck of the woods. 7:00 start time here, and it will be Aaron Mosier on the call at 7 for this one.
I'm excited to hear what's going to happen in this game, considering we look at what's going on with Rootstown and what Rootstown's been able to do this season. I'm excited to see United try to prove themselves against a solid Rootstown team that's played solid against a lot of good opponents this year.
And stay confident, right?
Yeah.
That's the big key. They got to stay confident. And they had the tough offensive game in week 10 against United. Against Southern with the 14-0 loss. They got to shake that off, throw that tape away, and just come out and play the offense that they have most of the season. Because if they do, they'll win this game. But if they if that 14-0 loss shakes their confidence and they come in this game a little bit passive, trying to not make mistakes, then they could get in trouble.
Doesn't get any easier. Winner of this game plays the winner of Kirtland and Independence.
They play Kirtland.
Anthony's like, they play Kirtland. All right, they're gonna play.
We talked about locks.
That's like if there's one team that's not dropping a 116 matchup, probably not Kirtland.
Stop the show. Quit the voting. It's over. I would come in on Monday. And whatever you wanted me to do on Monday, I would do if Kirtland lost.
Whatever. That's all.
I'd be like, within the realms of I can do it on the internet without being fired, I would do it.
Terrible.
How do I get past that? Wyndham will play Danville tonight. 7:00 start time for this one. And Danville will have a team stream on this for 7:00.
Going to be a tough game for Wyndham, but you know what? Great great for the Bombers to be here considering the injuries and just to be in the playoffs. I mean, but I know Coach I know the competitive spirit of the Eyes, and they're both on that team, and I know the competitive spirit of the Bombers and that whole squad. They're not just happy to be there just to be there. They want more. They're always going to want more, and they're going to be looking to blow up Danville's season too, and early on in the playoffs. And it definitely could. It could be heartbreakers.
This game reminds me a lot of what we talked about with Lisbon, because the season is a win already for Wyndham in my eyes. Like, you've won the season with what you've gone through, able to push through, get a couple of big wins, make the playoffs. That's a win in my book. So everything else is just kind of icing on the cake. Like, go out and throw everything you got at this team and see if you can, like you said, bust Danville out of the playoffs and make a big win for the Bombers.
You never know. The winner of Conington Valley and Jeromesville Hillsdale will await the winner of this game.
Last game that'll be on the network tonight is going to be Garfield going to Conneaut. The 4-4-1 goal team will have this one at 7 o'clock kickoff time for you.
This is going to be interesting. 8-9, two teams that are 8-2 on this season. It's a Conneaut team we're familiar with. We've gotten to see a couple of their games, and a Garfield team we're, of course, very familiar with. I'm excited with this. There's two teams very physical, very similar play styles, too.
Yes. That's what I was about to say. You took it right from me. These two styles are just so similar. They're both ground and pound, old school football teams. Conneaut knows how to win close games. We saw that against Western Reserve on YSN. And we've seen it a couple other times throughout their season. They definitely know how to win those tight ones where they need clutch plays in the end. Garfield has had one, if I'm not mistaken, one really close game this year where they lost on the walk-off 2-point conversion from Warren JFK.
And everything
else has just kind of been either smooth sailing or that loss to Brookfield, if I'm not mistaken, for Garfield.
Mm-hmm. And Garfield's looked good in all their other games, but this is going to be a tough opponent, too. Going to Conneaut, it's a decent drive, too. Winner of this game will play the winner of South Range and Liberty.
I wonder how much tape on that Brookfield game Conneaut watched, because they're kind of the same. All three of those teams kind of the same style. Really physical. They want to slow the game down, run it down your throat, that kind of old school football. So I wonder really how much Conneaut watched that Brookfield film and see, like, what did they do so well? What are there things that we can kind of exploit? I'm sure that Brookfield film was on the projector a lot for Conneaut this week.
Probably at the premium for sure.
All right, some other games that are happening. Unfortunately, they won't be on the network, but Lakeside is traveling to Paynesville Riverside. That'll be a tough game for Lakeside. Riverside is one of the best teams in Division II, Region 5, so a tough game for Lakeside. Lakeside has had like kind of a fall for grace. We talked about it. They were once the number one team in Region 5 not too long. No, I mean pretty long ago now, because it was week 4 after the great non-conference start for Lakeside, where they found themselves number 1 in the region. Now they're sitting at, I believe that's 15-2 for Riverside, Lakeside. So it's going to be a tough one for the Dragons as they travel to Riverside. And then Cardinal Mooney at Edison, that's going to be on NFHS network. So won't be on our network, but you'll still be able to find it. And this is going to be an interesting matchup between Cardinal Mooney and an Edison team that really wants to prove themselves. You know, their defense has been locked down all season long. They're 10-0. They're 3 years removed from 0-10 season. And, you know, Mooney's coming in the paper. Everyone's just saying, Mooney rolls. And Edison's like, we're the home team here. We're the higher seed. We're the 10-0 team. Maybe feels a little bit disrespected, and they have a chance to earn it tonight. Now, Mooney has a chance to say, we're Division 5, but we play a Division 2 type schedule, and that's going to definitely help us out. We're going to see which one of those dams gives, because one of them is going to break, right? Either the Edison defense is going to break, or Mooney's, up and down lack of offense, because Mooney has not scored a lot this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle Edison's defense.
It's going to be a case where both these teams have chips on their shoulders.
I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I don't think Mooney's going to be able to score enough on this defense to blow them out.
I'm curious to see, but both these teams are coming in with chips on their shoulders the size of parking lots right now, and they're definitely ready for what's to come. I'm excited for whoever emerges from this all YSN matchup, because I've loved the story of Edison, but I've loved what Mooney's been able to battle through adversity-wise, and I've said since the beginning of the season that Mooney in the playoffs is dangerous. I don't care what seed they are, they're dangerous.
Edison players are wearing a Halloween costume today that's just a sweatsuit with a Dorito chip on the shoulder.
Love it. Love it.
on that terrible joke, we will end our show. Casual Sports Podcast coming up next from 2 to 3. Power Hour from 3 to 4. A bunch of playoff football tonight. We talked about it. Reminder, it's $9.99, gets you access to all the games. Make sure you're not paying more than that, or else it's not YSN. So go to ysnlive.com/live. You still click on the links and then get your virtual ticket before kickoff. That'll do it for us. Back to an hour. We're going to be an hour show starting on Monday from 1 to 2. So don't miss that. We'll be seeing you on Monday on Running Point. Thank you so much.